Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. The AU is meeting, and there was a big gathering, and the president of Botswana addressed his fellow heads of state, reminding them that there is democracy in Africa. And this is what he had to say.
The people of Botswana took to the polling booths and polling stations to vote. The next day, as the counting was underway, when the picture of the outcome of the election began to emerge in faint charcoal outline, the incumbent president of the Republic of Botswana gave me a call. He said to me, "It is becoming clear that your party is winning. It is still early days yet, but I'd like to congratulate you in advance." That was long before the outcome was clear. The next day, still a long way from the end, the incumbent president called me again and said to me, "The picture has now emerged. I will proceed. I want you to know." That was a day before the final outcome of the election to become evident. And on the morning of the next day, still before the outcome was declared, he addressed a press conference and conceived. In the afternoon, the outcome was declared. I'm raising these things not for self-adulation or to seek approbation, although the approbation would be well deserved. I'm raising these issues in order to demonstrate that democracy does exist on the African continent. And I want this to be routinized and collectivized into a character, a democratic character of the African continent. Hello, Africa. Hello, Africa. And at this point, I'd like to allow these lines of a poem that keep assailing me. These are the words of a poem written by an African, one of the Senegalese father. The poem says, "Africa, my Africa. Africa of proud warriors and ancestral savannas. Africa of whom my grandmother sings on the banks of a distant river. I've never known you, but your blood flows in my veins. Your beautiful black blood that irrigates the fields. The blood of your sweat, the sweat of your work, the work of your slavery, the slavery of your children. Africa, tell me, Africa, is this your neck that is bent? This back breaking under the weight of humiliation? This back trembling with red scars and saying yes to a whip under the midday sun? But a great voice answers me, impetuous child. That tree, young and strong, that tree over there, that is your Africa. Splendidly alone among fading flowers.
Wow, that was beautiful. The reality is, while countries like Botswana have enjoyed free, fair, and credible election, they are a very stable democracy, and their economy has been stable and prosperous. We in Zimbabwe, by contrast, we are an autocracy, a dictatorship. And after 45 years of independence, we are yet to hold free, fair, and credible elections. It is interesting that in the last elections, 2023, both the regional body, SADC, and the continental body, the AU, condemned Zimbabwe's election as flawed and illegitimate. And yet, this is what Mnangagwa had to say to those comments. He insisted that the elections were free, fair, and credible, and dismissed both SADC and the AU with utter contempt. Deja vu, this is their business. Nothing to do with him.
Vana vakatuka Zanu PF kana ndonyanyisa kufara kuita zvakanaka ukavona vavengi vakwashi kurumbidzwa nekuchikanganisa ukavona vachiti Zanu PF yakaipa farai. You are doing correct things for your country. Hongu takaita maelections edu kuna vamwe vaitaura zvisina musoro zvikanzi maelections anafamba zvakanaka ndezvavo.
So both SADC and the AU condemned Zimbabwe's electoral process for failing to meet the requirements of Zimbabwe's own constitution, electoral act, and SADC's principles and guidelines governing democratic elections. And Mnangagwa's the audacity to dismiss it as deja vu. Forget it. They are not important. They are enemies. If your enemies are criticizing you, then you must be doing something right for your country. That is where we are. It is interesting to note that even those in Zanu PF are now criticizing him too. A faction has emerged in the party led by Bombshell Blessed Geza and some of his war veterans. And they've dismissed Mnangagwa as a dictator. Corrupt, incompetent, etc., and that he must go. Let me be very clear on this. Geza and company are dismissing Mnangagwa as a dictator because Mnangagwa has been pushing to amend the constitution to allow him to stay for another 2 years beyond his 2-term limit. They've come out strongly against it because it happens to stand in their way. They want to replace Mnangagwa with Chiwenga. That is different from somebody who is criticizing Mnangagwa because he's running an autocracy. is a dictator who are interested in dismantling the dictatorship, the autocracy. They are not interested in dismantling the autocracy. Geza and these war veterans are the ones who helped impose the Zanu PF dictatorship we've been stuck with these last 45 years. They played their role in opposing Mugabe. And when they were sick and tired of him, they fought to remove him in 2017, only to replace him with Mnangagwa. And now, history is repeating itself. They are fighting to replace Mnangagwa with Chiwenga. We already know the history of Chiwenga. Chiwenga has been involved in the imposition of the Zanu PF dictatorship all along. And he has had his fair share of the spoils of power. Here is a video clip of the Army General at the time stating very clearly that in Zimbabwe, we are not a democracy. We are an autocracy. We are a dictatorship. The only person fit to govern the country is whoever they, the war veterans, say is suitable.
We wish to make it very clear to all Zimbabwean citizens that the security organization will only stand in support of those political leaders that will pursue Zimbabwe's value, traditions, belief, for which thousands of lives were lost in pursuit of Zimbabwe's hard-won independence, sovereignty, territorial integrity, and the national interest. To this end, let it be known that the highest office on the land is a straitjacket, whose occupant is expected to observe the objectives of the liberation struggle. We will therefore not accept, let alone support or salute anyone with a different agenda that threatens the very existence of our sovereignty, our country, and our people.
That was, of course, nonsense. If the people of Zimbabwe, in a free, fair, and credible election, elect somebody, surely it's not for the army, the police, the CIO, and all these other security sectors to unanimously decide that that person is not suitable. That is exactly what he was saying. And in that video, VP Chiwenga was there. He was one endorsing the same idea. Here is VP Chiwenga before the 2017 military coup, brandishing Zimbabwe's constitution. claiming that the army was there to defend the constitution. A few days later, he staged the military coup. There is no chapter or verse in that constitution that says a military coup is legal. That point must be underlined. And yet, he did stage the coup. This is one of the problems we have had in Zimbabwe, where individuals, when it suits them, they grab the constitution, they pretend they defend the constitution. They evoke that they're defending the people, stopping them from suffering. There's been a wave of support of Blessed Geza and his colleagues. It is, of course, nauseating. These individuals, like it or not, they are fighting to replace one dictator with another. That cannot be progress. That will never be progress. And we should never pretend that that is progress. Geza and company have imposed the Zanu PF dictatorship these last 45 years. And what we want is to make progress on that issue and not be going round and round in circles like a chicken with its head cut off. Zimbabwe is an autocracy. And the chaos of the last 45 years must end. And it can only end by the acceptance of people like Geza and his war veterans that the present system has failed and must be dismantled. And people must tell people like Geza, in no uncertain terms, that swapping one dictator for another is not what we are after. We are after dismantling the dictatorship. We have got a tyrant right now who not only rigged the 2023 elections, and therefore then per se is illegitimate, but now he wants to extend his illegitimate mandate by rigging the referendum to amend the constitution under the pretext that he is the only one suitable, competent to revive Zimbabwe's economy, to make it comparable to that of Botswana. The people of Zimbabwe must have a meaningful say in the governance of the country. The country would not be in this economic mess if they had had free, fair, and credible elections all along. His argument that he is the only one competent to end the economic ruin is nonsensical. Because since Mugabe's departure, corruption and mismanagement have got even worse. Mnangagwa is hell-bent on amending the constitution because he wants a free hand so that he can continue the looting. Geza and company are determined to stop him, not because they want to end the autocracy, but because they want their own men as a top dog. I think the people of Zimbabwe must make it abundantly clear to both Mnangagwa and Chiwenga that we want an end to the autocracy and chaos. And we are not going to negotiate on that point. Thank you very much. Have a good day.